Hello, everybody. Welcome to Girl Talk Ministry, joining in on our podcast as we do our season of Taking a Leap of Faith. And we have Miss Keyerra Williams here with us. And we're not going to we're going to allow her to introduce herself. So, Miss Keyerra, you'll take the floor and just begin telling us your journey as you took a leap of faith for your ministry.
Okay. Hello, I'm Keyerra Williams, and I am the owner of Elevated Praise Dance Studio here in Gastonia, North Carolina. We're located at 3826 South New Hope Road, Suite 9. Well, I will say, beginning of my taking a leap of faith, I began to write. I will say that. Even though God gave me the vision like way back 2006, it was like I pretty much went through like a transitional phase where it was just like he had me writing. He was like preparing me for that moment. And so I would say after 15 years of being a praise dance leader and teaching at different churches and being under people mentoring and stuff like that, it was just like God was like, go, just jump out there, and just be your authentic self. So I did. He had me on a journey where I just started hearing him more, and he had me going to look at buildings. I even sat down with the city. I sat down with the city of Gastonia. I talked business with them. I even talked business with the other some other business owners or whatever. And it was just like, even though I didn't choose to go that route, he allowed me to minister to them. So I felt like he had me go through the different paths and different routes or whatever to get me here. Right. So basically, I will say it was a journey. At times I wanted to like stop, but God kept saying, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the call, called. And I kept saying, Lord, this is hard. I hear what you're saying, but every time I go to a door, it's like a no. Or they want to change what you're showing me. And so that's basically how it was. I kept having many closed doors. I kept having so many no's to the point where I was like, God, are you sure? You know what I'm saying? We do that. We like question God on something that he's given us. And he was like, yeah, I'm sure. You called for a time as this. And just like I'm talking to you, that's how me and God talk. Like I talk to God like that every day. I'm like, God, good morning. What do we do today? Or who can I bless today? Or that's me every day. And so basically I was at my day job, which is where I'm a nanny. I'm a nanny there today. And I was sitting there and he just started speaking and he was like, backtrack to the building that I had you at, a while back. And I kept saying, what building? And I was like, okay, Lord, just show me. So I got off of work and I just took the back road of where he was showing me and I laughed. And I said, I thought this building was, already taken because at first the sign was removed. Like somebody had got it,
Right.
So long story short, I ended up coming back and the number and the sign was back in the door.
Wow.
And so when I called her, I'm like, hey, I'm inquiring about this studio or suite or whatever, I'm very interested. And she was like, well, I could come up there right now. And she actually took the time to like stop and come and let me in. And then long story short, how I knew it was God was because she didn't try to change nothing that God had told me. She actually gave me a whole tour, and then after that she was like, before you make a decision, go pray about it. Wow. And then give me a call back. So then I was like, okay, God, I hear you. And then that let me know like I was where I was supposed to be. Right. This is the place for me. Yes, and I can say like I got in that building and then I just made the steps in preparation to get in here. And when I tell you, God, it was a God move. Like everything just started falling into place and it was a quick move. It wasn't like, okay, I'm gonna wait a couple minutes, right. and moving here, like stuff started just falling into place, and everything that I needed was already provided. Like he
Wow.
just started connecting the dots with people who I needed, like the sign or, the paint job or whatever. Like it
Mhm.
just started falling into place. So, yeah, that's really what I did. I jumped during the pandemic.
And
Basically
that's
in a pandemic.
and like you said, like how you were even saying like you were created for such a time as this, like, and then you were even talking about like prior to this, you were serving in various areas, but it was still
Right.
in alignment with where he was calling you to. And I think that's so good because God knows our talents, he knows our gifts, and he knows what he's going to use in order to get us to our destiny. And how in between those times of you even then taking that leap of faith and get your own building, you were still doing what you were called to do, even in those
Right.
moments of servanthood. And that's
Right.
amazing.
Because I'll tell you, like, I'm one of them people who like to be in the background. I don't like to get praised for anything. Like, I'll help you. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I'm always helping people. Like, people can call
Mhm.
me, and I'm always helping. And the thing is, I would never charge a dime. Like, wouldn't charge nothing. I just would freely go. But in the midst of me going, I always talked about it. Even to my dance kids at the church, I would be like, one day I'm gonna get my own, and we gonna do ministry, and we gonna be on the road, and we gonna go outside these walls, because people in the streets need to know God. It's people just like y'all. Because one thing is, I relate to a lot of young kids because
Mhm.
I've been there. I used to be young, and yeah, I didn't always do everything right. I didn't always dot every dot, and no, I didn't do it like my parents did it or my grandparents did it. But guess what? I'm still chosen. I'm still worthy. I'm still called. And that's one thing that I tell young kids, like, everybody has a different path, but you have to know where God is calling you. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So that's one reason how Elevated Praise Dance Studio got birthed, because I'm a purpose pusher. I
Mhm.
try to pull what's inside of you out.
Right,
You
right.
know what I'm saying? But also, I want you to know the foundation, because if God is not your CEO, if you don't make him first, it don't matter what you do, it's not going to work.
That's so
It's
true.
not going to work. It's not going to come into fruition. And
Hmm.
so that's basically, that's what I did.
That's amazing. And just to even like go back on like, God started calling you and telling you, speaking to you about going to view this building. So
Right.
was there ever like any, because did you ever tell anybody that God is talking to me about this building, and then did you have like any type of pushback, like I don't think you should get that building, like maybe it might be another building? Did you have anything like that happen?
So let me tell you, when it came to looking for the building, I was quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And in the time of birthing this, I had to remove myself, like, from everybody. Like, God pretty much isolated me, and I was just like by myself. I always tell people, like, God broke me down to restore me. Like, I went through this process by myself. And it wasn't like I didn't want nobody in the journey, but I had to hear clearly. And he literally, like, he had me falling on my face more. He had me, like, fasting more. And in the process, like, I felt myself changing too. Like, I felt like God was like calling me out. As I say, like, I feel like I was birthing a ministry pretty much.
Right.
Birthing a ministry inside of me. And in order to that, you have to close your ears. You have to isolate yourself, and it has to be you and God. So that's really what I did. And I learned a long time ago, like, when God is giving you something, you have to keep quiet on it.
Mhm.
Because, like, with me, I don't know if you are, but with me, I'm a dreamer. So I dream a lot. I have a lot of visions. So while everybody else is sleeping, I'm up and I'm like writing, or
Mhm.
I'm doodling and drawing on what he's saying. And sometimes it'd be far out there. So I feel like in the beginning, I would tell people and I would share, and they'd be like, "Oh, okay," or they brush it off, or
Mhm.
they'd be thinking like, "Okay, girl, I hear what you're saying," but no, like I said, God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the call, even
Mhm.
the ones that people might think God don't call. So, yeah, I feel like when God is calling you to do something, you have to keep quiet until it, is ready to be manifest for the world to see or whatever. You really have to be quiet on it.
And that's so good because it's like, and he will even give you that desire to not even want to tell nobody, or he'll give you that desire to stay isolated and not have a bunch of people in your ear, because that
Yeah.
just will draw you farther away from him. And he wants to ensure that, okay,
Yeah.
if you about to jump out on faith and you about to do this, I need you to be away from everybody else and just trusting that what promise he has for you, it is for you, and it will prevail. And it doesn't matter what anybody else has to say. Because
Right.
regardless, he got you. It doesn't matter if man supports it or not.
Right.
Whatever he has for you is gonna come. The resources gonna come. The
You
people gonna
better
come.
say it.
And it may take time, but it's all gonna work out.
Right. You're exactly right.
So how did that process go? Far as like, I actually want to go back on another thing. So you were saying you had previously seen the building that he made you go back and see. So like, whenever you first saw the building, talk about that. Like was it that God just got you up one day and he was like, I just need you to ride out, and you seen the building, or like what did that look like?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It was like God was calling me out on Saturdays. It'd be like right after I just had like a dance practice at the church teaching the youth. It's like God will have me riding out. Like on that Saturday, instead of me going right back home, I would be riding to go see different buildings. Not knowing like this was gonna be the building.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, because I never knew it. Because way back when, like I would say before I even opened up, because it took me a whole year,
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought I was opening up in 2020 because I
Right.
had been looking at buildings, and then I had one building that I thought was a place because I would say I thought, not
Right.
what he thought,
Mm-hmm.
because I said, okay, I want to get somewhere where I can do ministry, meaning like not really like in a rural area, but I wanted to go like to Mount Holly and
Mm-hmm.
just be somewhere where it's a need,
Right. Right.
And so I was like, God, plant me where there's a need. I can be halfway mark. Da, 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 da. But
Mm-hmm.
once I started saying, I stopped telling him what I really wanted. He pretty much just showed me where it was at.
Right. Right. That's amazing. That's
He's like,
amazing.
you're not looking. You're not looking at it. You're not understanding the plan. And a couple times I had to go back to the notes. I had to go back to the drawing. I
Mm-hmm.
even went back to my old notebook where it first started in 2006, where I had like wrote everything out.
Wow.
And all I did was had to pull from it because it was already there.
It was already there from
It
all
was
the way from 2006. And that just gave me chills, because it just goes to show like
right,
his word stands,
right,
and it may not come at that moment, but it's gonna come. And when it
right.
do, it's just gonna be just like he said it.
And you have to remain faithful. That's one thing I tell people. Even though you don't see it, even though you don't feel it, you still got to remain faithful. You got to continue to show up. You got to continue to go. Because it's times, I'm going to tell you who I am. I'm one of them people, I show up when I'm tired. I show up when I'm sick. It doesn't matter. I show up because I said yes. And
Mm,
once you say yes, you
right.
got to keep that yes.
That's
And that
right.
yes should drive you to finish the assignment.
Hmm.
Finish the assignment.
That's so good. That's so good. And it's making me think back, because you said you had the dream. I mean, you had God spoke to you about this in 2006.
Yeah.
And then, okay, now it's the pandemic, a whole decade or so later. And now he's really pushing you at this point to birth this in the middle of a pandemic. So, like, what was that like? Like, your thoughts, just even like
Oh,
being in the natural and having to focus on what he's saying in the spiritual. Like, what was that like?
I'll be honest with you. I was like, God, are you sure?
Hmm.
Because things are closing.
Right,
Are you sure?
right.
Because at that time during the pandemic, I had switched careers. I came from a full time being a teacher to, a nanny. And then
Hmm.
I'm like, are you sure you want me to go ahead and open up my business? He was like, jump, jump. And, one thing, how I really knew he wanted me to jump is because, like, one of my spiritual sisters,
Mhm.
She does praise and worship too. She does praise dancing too, and she's located in Greenville. And her name is like Shauna Marie.
Mhm.
So me and her, we met when I danced at Spirit Fest. I had danced at Spirit Fest the year of 2020. Yeah, 2020. And I had during that season, I had been praying for God to connect me with a mentor.
Oh,
I was like,
wow.
God, connect me with a mentor who's on the business because I got everything else like
Mhm.
down pat, but I've never been a business owner.
Mhm.
So find me, send me a mentor I can shadow that I can, follow how to run a business because I've
Right.
never had a business. Think about it. If you've never been a business owner, you don't know what to do. You don't know what's all required. You don't know
Mhm.
what's before you. And so I got invited to dance with my other sisters for Fest, which my friends in South Carolina, because that's one thing about me. When I do ministry, it ain't just ministry. Like I connect with people all over the place.
Right. Yeah.
It's kingdom building. So it don't matter if you South Carolina or if you in Georgia, whatever. Like when it's time to minister, we call on each other to go out
Right.
the streets. You see what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
so we did Spirit Fest together, and during that weekend, like we had done like ministered at the Salvation Army, like we had ministered in the streets, helping young kids get saved, and that's everything. Like it was like really serious, and I had never experienced that level of it.
Right.
Like just being encounter of young kids who want God. And we even like did workshops. It was a whole weekend, and that whole weekend it was like intense. Every day it was something different. We even danced at the mall. We even
Right.
did a parade downtown Greenville, and I was just like, boy, these mothers are really, working these streets.
Mhm.
And that's when I felt like, okay, God, I see what you're doing. Because
Mhm.
if you about to birth me to do that, you want me to see that it's another level
Yeah.
outside the
That's
church
good.
walls. Because the only thing I really ever done was minister in the church walls, or if somebody called me to come, then I would go.
Mhm.
But I had been asking God for so long, like, take me before the nations. And I say it right now, like, I don't want to be in a
Ooh.
box. I want to be taken before the nations, and I want a whole team with me because I feel
Ooh, boy,
like
you
it's
get
time
the
to get in
chills.
the field. It's time to connect.
Mhm.
So, long story short, that last night we had a dance at Fest with a whole bunch of famous artists, because that's who comes.
Mhm.
And so we got to do like the intermission and the beginning opening of Spirit Fest, where you see so many people. And in the midst of after us dancing, I sat down. God was like, "There she go," and I was like,
Ooh.
"Lady." And then so He showed me who she was, and I'm gonna tell you, like, I to this day we laugh at it because she didn't know me and I didn't know her. My first time meeting her was when we connected Friday night at the
Mhm.
hotel, and all we knew all of us was gonna be dancing together as sisters. You know what I'm saying? Ministering for God. Everybody on one accord doing what we here to do. Get lives saved. And so yeah. So when I went up to her, he told me who she was. I went up to her and I was like, "Hey, my name is Keyerra. Nice to meet you." I was like, God is showing me that you're gonna be my mentor.
Ooh.
And she already knew exactly how she responded. She's like, yeah. She said, "Me and you need to talk." She's like, "We need to communicate. I got to tell you what God is saying in this season." She was like, "Because He has a word for you." And so after that, we switched numbers. And then I promise you, it was like the month after me and her sat down, we had a whole meeting. And God was like pouring into her to pour into me to get
Mhm.
me here. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And she said, God told me to actually help you. And so she actually took my hand and was like, showed me the ropes. You see what I'm saying?
That's amazing. That's so good. And that just speaks to like divine connections. And it's
Right,
like, even for one, it's the fact that he even
right,
God hears us. He
right,
definitely hears us. And he will expose us to what he wants for us before we
right,
even get to be in that place.
right.
And that's amazing within itself. But back to the divine connections piece. God knows who we need. That is so good. And not only was you telling him that you needed somebody to mentor you in the business realm, but he was already speaking to her as, hey,
Right.
somebody.
He was already speaking to her.
Yes.
And I promise you, like, I cried and everything. I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, I was like, she ain't turned me down. She ain't charged me no fee. Like,
Mhm.
you know how most people you try to get to help you, they always want something out of it. It's like a tit for tat.
Mhm.
But it was like she understood the assignment. She
Mhm.
knew my heart. He had already pretty much talked to her. And when I say she took my hand and gave me free information.
Mhm.
I mean,
That's how
she
you know.
literally guided me how to set up my business from the EIN to, the website.
Mhm.
Like, she literally guided me all the way through it. She even gave me timelines. Like, I sat with her, we had a meeting, and in our first meeting, she was like, write this down, write this down, write this down. And she gave me deadlines. Like, you need to meet this by this time, you need to do this by this time.
Yeah.
And she just lined everything up until the time when it was time for me to jump. And she's like, I'm gonna help you until you jump. And she was right there.
That's amazing.
She was
And
right there.
that even speaks to I recently had a conversation with one of my friends, and we was just talking about how, like, sometimes God's gotta send you like a midwife to help
Yeah,
you
and that's what I call it.
push. And that's exactly what that sounds like. Like, she
Right.
was your midwife to just help guide you and just birth that baby out that was festering up, ready to jump inside of you. That's
Right.
good. That is
Right.
so good.
Right.
Wow. Wow. And so, okay, so now you have the she helped you do the paperwork. So, like, in between time of like waiting on things to take off and actually starting at your studio, like, what was your thoughts then? Like, what was the people in your family, community, friends, like, was there support from some people, not support from some people? Like, what did that look like?
I'll be honest with you. During the process of jumping, I was quiet. I really didn't tell nobody I was jumping until I jumped. It
Mm-hmm.
was like everything was done in silence. And the only people that knew was my husband, my mentor, and my mom, like my close family. They the only ones that knew every step. But leading up to it, I was quiet.
So
I,
once you did step, what was everybody's reaction?
okay, whenever I did jump, everybody was like, "Oh, Keyerra, I'm so happy for you." And I mean, it was so much love because, like I said, it's a lot of people who know my story,
Right.
and a lot of people know that I've been doing this for a long time, and this is my passion. Like, I'm sold out when it comes to this.
Mhm.
And so I received a lot of love, a lot of love. Like,
That's good.
Facebook was flooded. Um, it was a lot of love. Like I said, only thing I really wasn't so happy about was because, like, the pandemic
Right.
caused
Yeah.
me to not be able to celebrate with everybody. I would have loved to have everybody there who was wishing me well, but the
Right.
pandemic just limited it to let me only celebrate with a few.
Hmm.
But I'm grateful for the moment. Like my mentor said, when like we walked in these doors, she said, "Soak it all in." She
Right.
said, "Because you will never get another moment like this,"
That's good.
and that's what it did. I soaked it in.
That's good. That's good. And, like, it's just still on my heart. Like, you had this vision all the way back in 2006. I mean, 2006 up till now. So, like, just talk about, like, if you were to have birth your ministry, your studio, like 5 years prior, like, this the timing of it all happening. Like, just talk about how that worked out.
Okay, this is what I tell people. If I would have done it sooner, I wouldn't have been ready.
Mhm.
I feel like God allowed it to be prolonged for so long because He had to get me ready, you
Right.
know?
Right.
Because I tell people, when you birth in a ministry, it's not just getting up there and just doing something. You got to know all the instructions, and it's
Mhm.
not your instructions; they're His instructions, and
Right.
you got to know exactly what He's saying. so that when you get into that ministry and you birth in that ministry, you're not running the ministry off of what Keyerra wants to do or what you want to do. You're doing it the way God wants you to do it. So
That-
I'm glad I launched when I launched. I'm glad I jumped when I jumped. I'm glad I waited
That's
because
good.
I'm more mature now than I was then. 2006, I was nowhere where I am now.
Mhm. And that just shows like how much God really cares about us, like in its totality, because it's like he doesn't want us to fumble the bag,
Right,
or like he doesn't want us to be in a place where we're gonna lose what he gave us. Like
right,
he is so precious enough and loving enough to say, okay, I know there's some other things that I need to build in her, but so let me just wait a couple more years. And to him, that probably what 2006, that was probably just yesterday to him. To us it seemed like a
right.
long time, but to him it's like there's still some more areas that I know she needs to grow in. And I think
And it's
that's
all
another
about
thing.
timing too.
Yes, yes. And
Yeah.
that's another thing is like he knows what areas that we need to continue to mature in, even though we
Mhm.
don't see it until we go through the test. That we're like, oh, okay, God, yeah, I probably did need to get a little bit wiser in this area.
Right, right.
So that's good. So now that you're in the studio, so it's been, how long has it been now?
Well, it's about to be a year. We're coming up on our year
Yeah.
in August.
So how does that feel like now that you have girls, like how does that feel like to know like you've went from basically serving in this area underneath other people, but now that you're in your own space and it's almost been a year, like just how does that feel? Like you knowing that you really trust the God and you just stepped out on faith. Like how does it feel now?
Girl, it feels great. Sometimes I just still can't believe it. And I get in my little space or my little corner and I'm just giving God praise because like I tell people, I was a little girl who had a dream that
Mm,
became a vision that became purpose.
mm,
That's how I put it. Because it started off as a dream into a vision and now it's purpose.
I love that.
And that's what I teach. I mean, I get joy out of that. Being able to teach little girls about purpose. Because yeah, first you gotta have a dream.
Mm,
They're little, like let's say 18, well, 2 year old. 2 year olds, they're dreaming. They're
mm,
dreaming. But as you keep molding these kids and they get older and older, they dream, like I said, it becomes a vision. And then when, like I say, my college girls, because I still have college girls to this day that come and help me or call me from college that
mm.
want guidance. So for my college girls, it's purpose because y'all in college. So what I've
Right.
planted in you or what I've pushed out of you, now you can bloom. You see what I'm saying? You can bloom. So that's what it's all about.
That's
That's what it's
good.
all about.
And like it's just amazing how he will take you to those and help you and allow you to minister to those that whenever you were in their area or at their age, that
Right.
sometimes people don't have the understanding, the relationships that they need to continue to help them become who they're called to be in God.
Right.
And so not everybody has that, but the fact that God can take you back to that space where you had that dream at that age, but they maybe had it, but they don't know how to help, cultivate it. But now
Right.
that you're able to pour into them at such a young age, and that just really opens like their mind, that opens their relationship with God. And it doesn't even have to be on a level of spiritual, like
Right.
it comes to you like Miss Keyerra, I have this idea, I want to do this, and it just even
Mhm.
helps you. Okay, well, you want to do this, well, let's just talk about it, like just tell me
Right.
what it would even look like, just to spark their minds up a little bit.
But see, that's the thing. When I would say, as me being who I am, like I said, I feel like youth is my area.
Mhm.
And I tell them like it's more than just ministering, because at the end of the day, you have to meet them where they are. Every person is not gonna come in, well, every youth is not gonna come in saved and ready. It's some of them that you're gonna have to help them transition until where they supposed to be. I even had some. I remember like my first dancer. She used to be so shy and so intimate of wanting to be in the front. But if you see her now, like she's speaking for Christ, which means like she will go and do speaking engagements now. She's dancing out here doing ministry. But in the beginning, when you first met her, she was like, "Oh no, Miss Keyerra, don't put me in the front. I was want to be in the back dancing." You see what I'm saying? So it's
Right.
a joy to see that. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I love. Like when I opened up, I had some kids come to me that I haven't seen in years, and that speaks volumes
Mm-hmm.
because they remember when I taught them when they was like 5 or 6, and here
Mm-hmm.
they are, fresh out of college. But they come back and show their respect. That shows you did your part. You know, you
Right.
did your part.
Right.
You planted that seed. Because, like I said, that's what I'm there for. We're not in here just to just dance. We're
Mm-hmm.
in here to do ministry. We're in here to learn the foundation. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and do outreach, and it's a lot.
Right.
It's a lot that we do in here. It's mentorship in this building. You know, and sometimes like we might not even have a class. We'll come in here and we might do a Bible lesson, you
Mm-hmm.
know, or we might come in here one day and just fall out, be prosperous on the floor because I know it's some practices we come in and everybody has dealt with something for that whole week and they just need to, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm big on just hearing God on what He's saying for that moment. But I told God, when you give me my spot, when you give me my place, it's gonna be a place where you can come in and get healed, and you can
Right.
get prayer if you need prayer. You can come in here and dance if you need to dance. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you gonna come in here and be free. I tell people like it's a free space, free space. You know what I'm saying? To
Mm-hmm.
just be you,
That's amazing. That's
and no
amazing.
judgment. Nobody's judging you. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's
Mhm.
judging you.
And I love the fact that you said, like, some days y'all may have dance practice, some days y'all may just pray. Like, that just really shows, like, you allow God to have his way in
Right,
the moment, and you don't try to control the
right.
atmosphere in which he's trying to work. And that really speaks volumes.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. So I don't know. That's good. Your story is amazing. Like, it's phenomenal. So, like, as you continue to walk in your journey, because obviously God has more for you. Like, you're like, the fact that He even has you thinking of the nations, like, shows that He has put that desire in your heart.
Yep.
So as you just continue, because obviously this is not going to be your only leap of faith. So
Mm.
as you just continue to trust God and walk in His obedience, like, what does that look like for you as you just continue to yield? I know you were saying you pray and you fast. Like, what does that help for you? Like, especially like fasting, because some people fast, some people don't. But what does that help for you?
For me, I know when I gotta fast because I'm one of them people. Um, the discernment will let you know. Like
Mhm.
I don't know if you know that, but you know, like sometimes the inner me gets bothered, and I'm like, okay, it's time. It's
Mhm.
time for me to go on a fast. It's time for me to follow my face more. And
Mhm.
I'll be honest with you, when you start saying yes, more attacks come. When you
Mhm.
start walking into his will and lining up with it, more attacks trying to come. So I would say every time you go into another elevated level, more
Mhm.
attacks come. So you have to be covered. You have to be covered.
Right.
You got to
And
be covered.
just that's so good. So talk about that, because basically what you're saying is attacks. Basically, that's spiritual warfare. So
Yes.
just talk about that and knowing how to stay in God's word and to stay rooted, because a lot of times, spiritual attacks, spiritual warfare is hard to continue to press through. And some people, they may fall short to that, but how
Right.
just continue to stay trusting in God's word during those times, because that's very important, I think.
Um, I always say just stay humble. Stay humble and stay committed. In spite of anything that might rise up, stay committed. And
Right.
the thing is, I tell people I wear it well. You will never know. You will never know because I wear it well. And I used to tell my kids, like, when we would go through stuff in ministry and stuff like that, I'm like, I feel like I get hit before y'all get hit.
Right.
So y'all will never know when we getting hit because I'm the one who gonna get us through it. I'm the one on my face. I'm the one, but I will say, hey, it's time. It's time for us to go fast, or it's time for us to go pray a little more. You know, we got something going on. We need to intervene. We need to get on our face. But I would just say, just stay committed. Just stay committed. And everybody's, I would say, everybody's way of handling it is not going to be the same.
Right, right.
Because for me, my I might be on a different level than somebody who just started, knowing God. So it's okay if you don't know how to fast, or if you don't know how to fight it.
Right.
All you got to do is call on a name.
Right.
And I always tell my little girl now, who's only 9. I'm like, she might say, "Well, Mama had a bad day." I say, speak the word. Speak the
Mm-hmm.
word on your level. It don't have to be perfect. Talk to God just like you talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that.
That's good. And that even goes to say, like, well, what it shows is like whenever you were saying, sometimes people aren't even able to tell that you're experiencing spiritual warfare. And that just goes to show like you don't allow it to settle in your spirit.
No.
Because I think that's a lot of times, like that's where we get stuck at, is we allow that to settle into our spirit, and we don't
Right.
continue to speak the word of God, and then we get stuck in that place for a moment whenever
Hmm.
we could continue to be trusting in his word.
Yeah, and then some people, like, they just stay there. They get knocked down and they stay at that moment. But I'm one of them people, like, okay, and my favorite word is, okay, God, devil, I recognize you. I'm big on
Mhm.
that. Like, I see you, but guess what? My God is bigger. Or I automatically just start praying, just go into prayer, because you got to know, and it goes with what I say. You got to know whose you are
Right.
and who you are in God. And once you get that, other stuff won't be able to make you, like, dummy down or
Right.
make you react. Because everything don't need a reaction. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if you know who you are and whose you are, it won't bother you.
Mhm.
It won't
Mhm.
bother you.
That's so good. That's so good. And like another thing is like the enemy will continue to hit us in places where he's previously hit us before. So it's kind of like, okay, if I'm back at this point, I feel like I've been here before. God, what is it that I didn't learn that I should have learned? Or like it's the enemy, like every single time. Like if this is an area, and sometimes we just gotta go to God and say, like, what is this? Like I feel like I just keep getting attacked in the same area, and maybe that area is like God calling, like, okay, you need to come to me and ask me what is it that you need to continue to grow in, because sometimes that can be the case also.
And sometimes it's, he want to see how you going to react to it.
Yes,
Are
so
you
true.
going to pass the test? That's usually what I call test moments. Like, you
Yes.
testing me to see how I'm going to respond, or how I'm going to act to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because 9 times
Yeah.
out of 10, if you ain't passed that test, it's coming back around, because
Right.
you haven't accomplished that area, or that moment of growth where he wants you to pass. Like, so it's coming right back around until you ready to accomplish it.
That's so good. That's good. That's so good. Your story is great. It
Thank you.
really is. Like, even like back to the whole, like, to going to Greenville and seeing the lady, and God had already spoke a word to her, like God's timing and him knowing the season that you birthed, whatever he has called you to, you were created for such of that time, and he will just draw in the people that you need. Like,
Right,
it's amazing. It's
right.
amazing. And if you had any type of advice for anybody who's wanted to step out on faith, or who already had, God has been speaking to them, but they're just afraid of what people will say. What's one piece of advice that you would like to leave with everybody?
What I would say is, um, first of all, jump.
Mm-hmm.
Because you will not know how great it can be until you jump. Then
Mm-hmm.
another thing you got to realize, if you don't jump, the people who need what you got are going
Ooh,
to miss it.
yes.
And that was my thing. I always say, and I have a sticky note of it. I always say, if not now, then when? And I look
Mm,
at it every time I walk in my dance studio because that was me. Keyerra, if
right.
you don't do it now, then when? There's people waiting on you. There's youth waiting on me. You know, somebody's deliverance could be in what you have.
Mhm.
Somebody's story, like your story, could be somebody's way out. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? So I always say, if God is calling you to do something, do it. Be
Mhm.
obedient and do it. I mean, because if not, you don't want to know what happens if you don't. But like you want to do,
Right.
you
So
basically want to know, you want to submit and do what he's asking you to do. And you can't listen to the voice of others. Like what I've learned as a business owner and as a person, people are going to say whatever they're going to say. People are going to support and people are not going to support. But you
right.
got to remember that, like I said, God called the qualified. He,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the call. And if
Mm-hmm.
you know your calling, that should make you just yield yes
Right,
all
right.
day long. And it doesn't matter what people think.
That's good. And even like going back to what you said, like it's not, this is not only about you.
It's not.
There's so many people that, like you said, that God will use you to help deliver and minister to other people. And sometimes, because sometimes you have to be like, okay, God, well, let me get up today and let me do this for them. Sometimes
Right.
you have to say, well, let me do this for me, or today I think I'm gonna just push myself because I know other people are connected to me. So sometimes you just have to go back and forth and just go with what you feel led to say.
Just and I would say have your pep talk, have
Yes.
your moment, but you need to show up. You need to show up every time, and you need to give excellence and be authentic. You got to be your authentic self. But one thing that'll help you push to where you need to go is making God first. I'm telling you, if I didn't make God my CEO, it's plenty of times I wouldn't be. I mean, I wouldn't be here at this moment, or like I said, I wouldn't have went to Greenville because there was plenty of times I kept saying, "Well, am I gonna have time to go?" Or you know, that's a lot of money because I'm gonna be this whole week. It's a lot of things that can play in the part. But think about it if I didn't go. You see what
Right.
I'm saying? Think about if I didn't go, if I didn't show up. So I encourage you to go. I encourage you to do it. Do it. Try it.
And
Try it and see what happens.
it's gonna all work out. Mm,
Mm.
that's good. Okay, so my last question is, so one of your most hardest moments as you were stepping out, or whether it be as you're currently in your ministry, what has been the hardest thing you faced, and how did you get through it?
Okay, I'm being 100. Okay, my hardest moment is when it doesn't look like
Ooh.
what he showed you,
Mm,
or when it doesn't look like what he's telling you.
mhm.
Like, even though I opened up a business, in the beginning, it was just like so dry. I
Right.
mean, so dry. And, people started coming in little bit by little bit. And then I kept saying, God, are you sure? I started questioning it. Um, And then I started having my little moment because I'm like, I've been doing this for 15 years and I've never charged a dime. And then, I didn't talk so many people through the years, and I should have more people than this. You start questioning yourself. But God told me, He was like, don't look at the numbers.
Mm,
Look at how many people you're reaching. Don't look
right.
at the numbers. So that's why I can come in here. I don't care if one day I have seven or one day I have two, or one day
Mhm.
it's just me and one person in here. I keep showing up.
Right.
I keep showing up
That's so good.
because I know there's something greater. I know there's an assignment. I know there's a purpose on my life, and I
Mm,
know this is not it. This
mm.
is this is not just where He gonna have me at. And then it's like
Feels
I can
good.
have those moments, and then guess what? Somebody will call, and then
Mm,
they'll invite me somewhere and say, "Hey, God told me I need to connect with you because I'm having this program," and I'd be like, "What?" And it be people
right.
that is nowhere around here. So then I'm like, okay, God, you put in my name in rooms I'm not even in. So that's why I said, when you sold yourself out, that makes you continue walking. I'm about to cry because I get emotional about it. That makes you show up when you don't feel like showing up. That makes you show up when you feel like, God, why they're not choosing me? Or I even said, God, why they don't want you? Because remember, I'm a praise dance studio. No, I don't teach jazz. No, I don't teach this other stuff. I'm trying to give your child what they need.
Right.
And in this season that we've been in, God is the only answer. These kids need to know about you. You know what I'm saying? So, that's it. You just gotta say yes. And once you say yes, you gotta mean that yes. You
The
gotta
highs,
die.
the
I mean,
lows,
I
the
said
ups and the
you
downs.
have to die to yourself every day, over and over again. You gotta renew your mind every day, over and over again.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
We're so grateful for your story. It's amazing. Um, wow.
Right.
Wow. And
And
you
that's
and
the thing.
it ain't over. It ain't over yet. That's the crazy part. It's not even over yet.
Right. And that's the thing, like when people, and that's the thing, like that's what I'm learning now. Like I used to be like, Lord, I don't like to talk in front of people. Cause like I said, I'm the one. I don't have to have the credit. I don't have to be out there in the front. As long as I'm doing what He told me to do, I'm okay with it. I like being my unique self. I like being my authentic self, and like I said, I like being by myself, doing what He's calling me to do. But I said, Lord, I know He's changing me because from where I started, where I just didn't talk much, He's
Right.
allowing me like to be on here platforms where I got to tell my story because I'm the one who have not told a story. I'm the one who felt like, why they want to hear my story, you know? But I had to think about this. If somebody can get saved off my story, or if my story can help a young person, you know, not give up on God or come closer to God, then I'm gonna tell my story.
No, that's
I'm
right.
gonna tell my story.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's good. Well, I don't think this is gonna be the last time. I don't think this is gonna be the last time you telling it, girl. I really don't. I really don't. And we're so grateful that you even took the time out to come and be a part of our podcast and just tell your story. I pray that it touches who it's supposed to touch, it inspires who it is supposed to inspire, uplifts who it's supposed to uplift, and just keep doing your thing. We can't wait to see what else He does in and through you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And if you want to just shout out what you do again for anybody who maybe joined in late and didn't hear what you do, and what your ministry is, you can take the time to do so.
Oh, okay. I am Keyerra Williams, and I am the owner of Elevated Praise Dance Studio, and we are located at 3826 South New Hope Road, Suite 9, Gastonia, North Carolina 28056. And I teach praise dance. I teach praise dance. I teach flags, mime. We do ministry trainings and workshops. Um, we do it all pretty much. We have fitness in the building. Um, we do spiritual development. Everything
That's good.
here.
And do you have any your social media accounts, or is it
Oh
just
yes,
you?
we
Or
do. We have our business page is Elevated Praise Dance Studio on Facebook and Instagram, and we are on Google, and we are located on Yelp as well. And we do
perfect.
have a website. So if you click on any of them, you can click on and look at the different classes that we offer and all the different stuff.
And if you know anybody, any girls that want to be a part, want to step out and do some dance, want to just learn about God or anything, please hit up Miss Keyerra Williams and her ministry as we continue to pray for her and uplift her as she walks in God's path for her life. Thank you all for joining us. See you later.